Dr. Incompetent here, and I want to do a Let's Play Planet Zoo franchise mode here in 2020. Start a new zoo, give you all the tips that I've found for just beginning the game and getting a zoo running smoothly, because I've done that a little bit, and then progress through the game and see how it develops into territory that I have not yet explored. I think once you get a foundation, it's a lot of fun to sit back and let things go in, but there are some complicated things with this game, so hopefully we will learn those together and figure out how to start a nice franchise. So let's do that. So I'm in franchise mode. I'm just going to click New Zoo. Takes 100 conservation points, but they pretty much give you that at the beginning. And I'm going to actually try a grassland zoo in Africa. And we're on medium difficulty level because that seems fine to me. And we're going to name the zoo Treasured Memories. So people can come here and make amazing memories while they support the cultivation and conservation of animals everywhere. So let's do it. So you just click create and it takes you into your zoo. Okay. So the first thing you want to do when you are starting a new zoo is to simply click pause. So the game is paused, and here is my starting screen. Yours may look the same or different depending on what continent and what biome you chose. So here's ours. Now, I'm going to go back to the very beginning and show you what you need to do right when you start out. So the only thing that they give you at the start is this entry place. And so this little facility is where all of the guests will come into your zoo. And so they're going to come in here and they're going to leave here. And so it's up to you to basically build this entire zoo from scratch from this entry facility in franchise mode. You begin on medium difficulty with 40,000. And so the key that I've figured out, as with many management games, is basically just don't go over your skis. Don't go into debt. Don't build too quickly. And don't go crazy with the decoration. One of the beautiful things about this game is the amount of awesome decoration that you can do. And if you want to do that without any punishment, just go to sandbox mode and you'll have a blast. But what I'm going to do is attempt to do this in franchise mode, and your resources are limited. So the first thing you want to do is set up your paths, and this will help you tremendously with all of your subsequent work. So I think, let's see, I like to pick a path that is this. It's a weird design. They all cost the same, which is cool. I think I'm just going to go with this kind of wooden path here. So when you are building your path, you have all sorts of options. You can adjust the length and the width. Right now we're at 7 meters wide, and that matches the entryway. All right, and so I think that's totally fine. So I'm going to pick and start putting down my path. You can change the camera, and I think I will. I'm just going to have the camera follow us when we build. Now, one thing I want you to show is when you first start out, this was a mistake I made the first time. This is not perfectly straight, but I really don't care, is that you only get power at the very beginning from your starting point. And so if you push H to open up the heat maps, and then you go to power, you'll see that I'm actually only providing power from this centralized point. So I want to keep most of my stuff that requires power close by. All right, so I'm going to build a pretty tight space at the beginning. Now, of course, you could just build power stuff later, but I think for just starting out, I want to make sure that I build everything within that power spread. And that actually might require me to just build the path back a little bit. So all we're going to do is build one animal habitat and all of our staff facilities and the required guest facilities before we get going. So let's have the guests come in, and I'm going to then keep going with the paths, and I'm going to actually click staff path, and I'm going to build my stuff for the staff first. And we're just going to build an offshoot to the main path. I'm going to make it shorter and not as wide. Okay, and we're just going to go here. And I think here. And let me open up the heat map again just to look at the power. Here. And one more. And then that's good. Oops. Oh boy. Sometimes it is a little strange how this works out. We have a tree in the path, so I could just wind... That's fun. Just wind the path around this tree. Leave the tree there. Alright, so now we have this staff path. And what this will let us do is when we go to the facilities to build staff facilities, we can just build them right along here and the path will go to them. I have found that the pathing is kind of strange in this game. And so if you build your facilities first and then try to build a path to them, it can be very awkward how it automatically tries to connect things. So if you build a path first, it makes it all easier. So you have to have certain things in any zoo to get it going. And they tell you right here, like what you need. You got to have a workshop, a vet surgery. These are all the kind of warnings of buildings and staff that you need. Now, the next heat map that I want to open up now is no longer power, but negative impact on guests. So, for example, if I want to build this animal trade center, you see this red circle around it. That means that guests will get upset if they see it, if they're close to that, if they have to walk in that. So if I built it here, they would walk by this and they would be like, ugh, there's this damn facility here that's pissing me off. But if you keep it here, it's close enough to everything, and it doesn't disrupt or impact the guests at all. So I'm going to build this. I'm going to bring the heat map back up. I'm going to build it here. And then I'm going to build a the keeper hut. I want that to be as close as possible to the animal habitat so that the keeper can get there. All right, now when you're putting down your facility, you can push Z to kind of rotate it. And then if I turn off the heat map, you'll see that I have this grid aligned, and then it's automatically connecting to the path. That's why I say you want to build the path first. Now, I'm building these like really generic, boxy, prefab, nightmare-looking facilities, and they look horrible. And you might be like, my God, these look bad. Can't I just build one of these other facility types? And yes, of course you can, but the thing is, they cost more money. Now, I do want to mention, I started out another franchise just so I could learn the ropes a little bit at the very beginning, and so I researched this classic design already with another zoo. And so if you're just starting out and you haven't done anything, you won't see these classic types. But I'll tell you, I'll explain how to research with a mechanic different aesthetic building choices. And those classic things look awesome, but right now we're just building these because they're cheapo and we don't care. Remember, we only have 40,000, and one of the most important things when you're starting out is just to keep that money so that you don't go broke and have to take a loan and then put yourself behind the 8-ball. So I'm just going to build this junky facility, and then again, if I look at the heat map with the negative impact, we're still good. All right, keeper huts don't actually really provide negative impact that much, right? Because you kind of have to have them by all habitats, so they're friendlier with that. All right, we need a research facility. Okay, so this definitely pisses people off, but that's okay. And I'm going to start building these kind of like side by side to save space. And then we need a staff room. Okay, and I'm just going to rotate it so that it connects up. And that's good. And then I'm not going to stack that on top. And then we still need a workshop. Okay. This also pisses people off, but it doesn't matter. We're just building it over here. And then they do want you to build a vet surgery. I don't believe that you actually have to have these. It'll just warn you about them. But I'm just going to build them right now because I don't want to not have them later. I'm even going to build a quarantine. It's quite expensive. And a lot of people don't think that you need these at the beginning. And technically, you really don't. I just like to build them so that I know, like, I have the money already invested and allocated, and I'm set. All right, so now this is done. Now, this is just an aesthetic thing, but you notice I have these trees, like, just growing in the building, all right? You can just click on this umbrella thorn acacia tree number 2, and you can get rid of it, or you can just move it, right? And I'm just going to move it, and I'm just going to, like, move it back here. All right, so I still have this awesome tree. I'm going to move this tree as well. And that's one of the really cool things. You can just push M to move it. And you just kind of like slide it around where you think it would look good. And then that looks better. It's no longer interfering with the buildings. It looks more natural. So this is a very beautiful game. It's one of the main reasons I enjoy playing it, is just how great it looks at. It is to look at, and the animals look even better. So now we have all these staff facilities, and again, they're ugly, but I'm going to hide these behind some trees when I get some more money. But these are all the things that are required to start. Now, you don't need the surgery and the quarantine, but the game will annoyingly tell you about it until you build them. So I just like to build it to clean up my screen. I hate seeing negative notifications anywhere in life, so I'm just getting rid of those. All right, now we've built all that. So it's time to then actually build our habitat. So I'm going to go back to building a path, and it remembers the width, so I'm going to keep it at 7 meters. I'd like to have a huge, wide, sprawling path so that the guests have plenty of room to move around. Now, I'm going to do something. I'm going to bring up the heat map, and I'm going to go back to power. I'm going to try to keep this within the power range, at least some of this facility. It doesn't matter if all of it is, but I want some of it so that the educational resources can be enabled. So I'm going to kind of like turn angle snap on, and I'm going to go to 45 degree angle, and then I'm going to build like, no, I'm going to go to 90, sorry. I'm just going to loop this back around like this. Now, I'm going to build it here, but I'm going to actually push escape and just leave this here, and I'm going to go back to the heat map and just make sure that the negative impact on guests isn't actually going onto the path. And here you can see that this guy, because it's so big, it's really evil, and so in terms of guests seeing it, it does great services, but the guests almost actually go by this. So what I'm going to do is just push Control Z and undo building the path that large right there, and I'm actually going to just kind of turn off angle snap, and I'm going to just have it go forward and curl around ever so slightly like this to kind of get away from that negative input. And then what I'm going to start doing is have this curl around more dramatically, and I'm just going to kind of like build my own little circle fun shape starting point. I actually don't really like to be perfectly symmetrical with things. I kind of like them to be somewhat organic looking, but you can do whatever you want in this game, which is why it's cool. And so I've built this kind of like weird oval thing for my habitat, but now we're done. All right, so now I've kind of ringed out the habitat. And the idea is the guests will walk in, and then they can walk around here and look at the animals. And then as we get more money, we can start to expand off of this main point. So the next thing I like to do in Planet Zoo is to then build actually the facility where the animals, the habitat for the animals. And so what you want to do is click barriers. Okay, now these are the barriers that I've unlocked. I haven't researched anything fancy or extra. And I'm just going to click these like wooden log barriers for now. And what you do is you just want to kind of build them, and you click the first point, and then it's going to try to build the next piece of the barrier. And as you can see, you need to click this clipboard so you can adjust, and I have it on max length. And you can adjust the length as you want. It just really determines like what kind of angles and shapes you can do. But I'm just going to build this around. I'm actually going to shrink this so I can get it a little bit closer. And you'll see in a moment what I'm up to. Now, one of the cool things about franchise mode, and I highly recommend you doing this because I did it as well, is like you just start out and you tinker around, and as you're playing, you unlock new aesthetic features, information about the game that you can use in other franchise modes. So it's kind of like it carries over. So you have a real incentive to keep, I'm going to just extend the length of this, playing and starting over, and then it gets easier each time as you have more options. Now, I don't have very many options for my barriers right now, but now we've created a basic barrier, and you're going to be like, well, they can't see the animals. You've built this like palisade around them, and you are 100% correct about that. But we will fix that in a moment. The next thing you want to do is you just have to put a door, all right? And I like to put the door somewhere off to the side like this, so it's not immediately apparent at this major T intersection. And then one fun thing I could do, it's completely unnecessary, but it's just, I like to do stuff like this, which is make a staff path, and then I'm going to make it again, like, you know, just 5 wide, but what I'm going to do is kind of connect a path back to the main path like this. It is not obstructed. Don't tell me that. I'm going to shorten it so that I can get this going. No, it's not working. Okay, then forget that. I was going to try to like make it so that the keeper could go either direction to get there, but it's not a huge deal. Let me see if I can actually get this in a, you know, in a way that would please this. Nah, it's having some problems. Okay, that's a bad idea. So you just push Control Z and you get your money back, and you say, you know what, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so anyway, I was going to have like a better thoroughfare, but maybe I can set that up later. I think it's because this path is so wide that it doesn't want to do that. Now, the next thing that I want to do is go to my barrier, and you just click on it, and now it tells you, hey, you have a habitat, okay? And click on this and see how big it is. It is about 1,000 square meters. So you might think that this habitat looks small, but I'll tell you what, in my last franchise where I was just messing around, I built this huge habitat and it was way too big. This is actually enormous. One thing actually I'm thinking about doing is splitting this into 2, because most animals don't need 1,000 square meters. You'll have to kind of learn as you go, like how big of a space that they actually need. But what I'm going to do then is just pick the logs again, and I might just click on this point and then add a new barrier that kind of just splits this roughly into 2 pieces. Yeah, like this. Okay, so now we have potentially 2 enclosures. And if this isn't going to work, I can just delete this. And then you would need to put a door over here when you're ready for it. Actually, I'm going to do that just now. I'll just get this online. So if I do decide to go live with this, I can. Okay. And then I'm going to click on the barrier, and I'm going to be like, hey, this is Habitat 2, here's Habitat 1, and they are distinct. A habitat has to have walls all the way around and a door. And then I'm going to click it again, and I'm going to say edit barrier. And it brings up the barrier screen again, and I'm going to turn these walls into glass that are on the exterior so that people walking by can see the animals. Now the doorway, I'll just leave that wood. But all of these other areas, I'm going to turn a lot of this into visible space, so people can see as much of the into the enclosure as much as possible. All right, you see that? So now anyone walking around here can see. I've left a little bit of enclosure over here because sometimes animals they like to be able to hide if they want to and not be seen. They get shy, and then they get stressed out if they can't find a place to hide. I don't know how necessary that is for all animal types, but it's generally a good idea. And this is plenty of viewing area. If you realize that your animal doesn't really care, then you can just open this all up. There is this back wall here that provides some shelter, but I'll just leave it like this. Now, if I do go to my heat map and look at power, you'll see that almost all of this is powered. This back portion is not powered, but that's okay. The habitat itself doesn't really need power for most things, but you can see what does need power. Alright, so we've got a habitat built. Okay, and before I start changing the habitat and, like, you know, making fancy decorations and plants and things, I need to pick what animals I actually want to get in here. So we go to animal trading, and then we go to the animal market, and then you want to click on this tab with the ribbon. It's for appeal, and you want to click it so that the animals are rated with the highest appeal first. All right, so let's reset all filters, and let's look for animals that are African that can go in grassland. So what you want is a boy and a girl so that they can make a baby. And wow, and you want to sort by highest appeal first, okay? And so, for example, if I'm sorting by, like, you know, really high appeal, then you get into nutso things where, like, there's this awesome gorilla, but he costs conservation points, and I only have 400. So I'm going to click on the price filter, and I'm going to say I only want to see cash listings, and I'm going to say filter. And then now we're just looking at animals based on their price. And then I'm going to sort again by appeal and price. And then these hippos and these mandrills are at the very top, as are these black bears. So I personally like bears, but there's only 2 boy bears that are available, and I want to have a female, but here's a female. So I'm going to click on this bear here, and you get information about the bear. And he has good longevity, which means he's going to live a long time, but his fertility gene is terrible. So we want a male bear that's like a little bit more virile, and this guy is not that. So let's look at the grizzly situation. You got any grizzlies? You got a boy grizzly? Yeah, let me look at this dude. Oof. These animals, she's pretty good, except her fertility is not good. What about these aardvarks? Anybody got better fertility? Alright. But are there any girl aardvarks? Oh boy. Alright, so you kind of have to just take, you know, what the game gives you. Right now, it looks like these mandrills are actually okay. Here's a boy who has 50%, and here's a girl who's actually not so good. But I believe mandrills like lots of women. It's like one boy and a bunch of ladies. So look at this. If you want to know about the animal, you click on the Zoopedia, and then you can click on its habitat, and you learn it wants 400 meters square, so our habitat is that big, and it wants 40 meters of climbing. It doesn't really care about water, and here's its temperature. It needs 10 feet of barrier, so I'm going to have to raise up the barrier because these dudes can climb. And then it says that it wants, in a group, that, not counting the kids and the babies, it wants 1 male and up to 9 females. So let's go ahead then and go to animal trading, and let's get these mandrills. So I'm going to buy this dude for 2,600, and then I'm going to buy this girl, and we've got a boy and a girl now. And then I'm going to go down and buy this other girl, and see if they have any more girl mandrills available. They don't right now, but the thing is, you'll see this timer, and the animals are constantly shifting that are available, so we will be just fine getting some more girls later. Now, what we need to do immediately is go back to our habitat, because now we're, building for mandrills, and it says that they can climb. So we need to edit the barrier, and these barriers that we have are currently, like for example, this guy is like, how tall are you? Well, let's find out. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to raise it. And it tells you on the side that this is like 2 meters. So this is 6 feet tall, roughly. So we need to make it taller than that. So I think around 3.5 meters should be pretty good. So let's make all of our stuff 3.5 meters so that these mandrills will not run away. That they won't just like climb over the wall and escape. Okay, just going to raise all this up. It doesn't have to be all uniform, although, why not make it such that it does do that? Oh boy. Okay. It does cost slightly more money to make everything taller, but it's not that big of a deal right now. I've bought my animals and I've bought most of my facilities, and I still have plenty of money. So I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so let's go ahead. Now I'm going to raise all of these interior barriers up to about 3.5 so that these animals won't escape. And if it says that they can, then you can just edit this later and make them taller. It's not, you don't lose the game or anything. You'll just have to round up the animals, get them back in here, and change the habitat. All right, so now we have the habitat tall enough. One thing I like to do is go to terrain, and then you can go to sculpting, and then you click on push, okay? And what you can do is kind of like dig out and lower the ground a little bit. And what I'm going to do is lower the ground right here so that I can put in some water in case the animals want to drink or like take a swim. I think I can actually put the water a little bit deeper than that. Yeah, cool. So now they have like a little swimming area. They don't need that, but it's fun. I always just like the animals to be able to get like refreshed and to drink. And then they're going to want climbing stuff, but we can build trees and facilities for them to be able to do that later. All right, so now we have the habitat, we have the staff facilities, and we have the animals at the animal center. So what do we need to do now? Well, we need to go to zoo, and we need to click on this little person icon for the staff. We need to hire 1 caretaker. Hello. We need to hire 1 keeper. Hello. We need to hire 1 mechanic. Hello. And a vet. And the other ones you don't need right now. You will need a vendor if you buy a shop, but they come with the vendors built in. And we don't need security with a zoo this small. It's not a big deal. All right, so these guys will all drop in and start to do their jobs once we unpause it. Now, at this point, I'm going to then think about building a work zone. So I'm going to go to staff, and I'm going to go to work zone, and I'm going to say new work zone in the lower right. And then I'm going to just shift click. No, I'm going to just drag a big huge box, and I'm just going to make this the work zone, and we're going to call this opening of, or no, let's call it the entry of zoo work zone. All right, and so here's the entry of Zoo Work Zone, and then now all of these facilities are part of that. And then what you can do is you can just take your staff and assign them to a particular work zone. And so now they know, like, oh, I need to take care of that work zone. Even more specifically, I can click on my keeper. No, I can't click on him while he's in the air. So I'm going to just unpause it, let him land, and then I'm going to click on this dude. And so he is, his name is Aaron Tanner, and he is the keeper. And so I'm going to, assign him to a specific habitat. But right now he's just working the only habitat that we have. But what you can do is you can click habitat and you can say maintenance, and you can say, oh, who's working on this? And it's like this dude. All right. I like to actually have people come by pretty frequently to take care of things. You can change the routine visits to whatever, but I found that if I leave the mechanic at yearly, that the barrier starts to have problems. Now that we know what we're going to have in this, we're going to have we're going to call this facility Mandrill Madness. I think it's only one L on Mandrill. Let's just call it that for now. And close it. Okay, so now we have our staff. And, you know, bear with me. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do when setting up the zoo at the very beginning. But once you get this done, you will get to enjoy the game, and it'll become second nature. It's just all things that you need to do to make sure that your animals are healthy and happy. All right, so now that we have this, let's go to animal trading, and then let's actually click on animal storage, and you'll see that I have 3 animals. And I'm going to click on, for example, Balade, and I'm going to move him to this facility. And then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to be like, hey, can you move this into here? And then let's go on the last one here, Rashidi, and let's move her into here. And then now all of the animals will be moved into this facility as I unpause it. And I haven't really built anything for guests yet because I'm not worried about that at the moment. I need to just get my animals in there, and then I'm going to take care of that. Alright, so they're kind of doing their thing. They know exactly what to do. They're assigned to this work zone. The staff have their buildings. They're going to go there. These boxes are the animals, and they're going to like pick them up and drop them off. So let's get them into the facility, and then we're going to do a bunch more things and pause the game. Alright, so you can see, here they come, and they throw these boxes, and then they expand, and then boom, we've got some mandrills in here. Alright, so look at these awesome animals. I'm going to pause it, so you can see, like here's the Rashidi, and he's the alpha male, and then here Balade is the female, smaller. Alright, now, what we want to do immediately is click on the animal and check out the animal's welfare. And it's at 20%, which is terrible. And so we need to fix everything about this habitat to make the animal as happy as possible. So the first thing that we can do is to look at the habitat. It does not like the terrain. All right, so let's go to terrain and be like, what's wrong? Why don't you like it? And it's saying it's not big enough. What is the navigable land area in this? No, it should be big enough. We'll let him figure that out. Sometimes it takes a second to register. Then there's the plants are a problem. So what kind of plants does he want? Well, he is tropical Africa, and he wants plants and coverage. So what you need to do is you click on the nature tab, and then you click filters, and you say, okay, well, this is a tropical biome. And then this is for the continent of Africa, okay? And then with that information, these are the ideal plants. We can start building plants that this monkey or mandrill primate will like. All right. Now, for example, I like a tree like this tamarind tree. And so you can just build this wherever you want, right? Like by the water or wherever. And then you put it down. And immediately, I just put down one tree. And then now this monkey is like totally happy with, he's like, hey, I love the plants and I love the coverage. You can even put down another. And then you're good. I just put down 2 trees and I'm good. Now you, of course, can build whatever plants you want. But this satisfies that need. Now, also you can look at the terrain distribution. They want some long grass. And so how do you do long grass? Okay, well, you go to terrain and you go to painting. And then you click on long grass. And then you can just kind of paint in some more long grass. You can adjust the size, the intensity. Oh no, I'm sorry, they need less long grass. What am I talking about? So let's click on short grass. I was going to say, it looks like there's plenty. Let's start smoothing out this grass a little bit for them. All right, they like that, but they also need a bunch more soil. So let's build some heavy soil, maybe around the water. Okay, and then now everything is in green levels of tolerance. They are totally cool with this. I'm actually going to build some more short grass back here, just because they don't really care. They don't want long grass, so I'm just going to kind of make their place good. And then they want some more soil, so maybe like back here in this corner we can build some soil. All right, so now if we look at the animal, its habitat is happier. It needs a hard shelter. It needs a place to sleep and get protection. So you need to click on habitat, and then there's a tab over here for beds and shelters. And I like to just build something like this. All right, and then you can put it back in the corner for them so they can get a little privacy. Okay, and then let me look at this guy, and then he is. You have to unpause it for a second, and then he's going to be okay with the hard shelter. Sort of. He's like, hey, there's not enough shelter space to cover all the animals, and I don't know if that's necessarily true, but maybe that is the case, and maybe we need to adjust this. Well, if that is the case, let me just unpause it for a second and see, like, are you really going to take umbrage with that hard shelter? So I think that because they don't like this hard shelter, I'm just going to unbuild it, get my money back, and I'm going to build a different shelter. Habitat, hard shelters, and maybe you need a bigger one. Totally cool. Can I build that? Well, feels like it kind of sticks out a little bit. I'd need to move my tree. Do they have one that's like slightly... What about this? Like, is this kind of a hard shelter gonna work? It's bigger. So let's see. What do you think, dude? Is this hard shelter the right one? Yes. Okay. So finally he has adjusted and said, okay, this hard shelter is good enough. It's not perfect, but it's in the green. All right, so the welfare is good. Now enrichment is a big problem. So let's go to habitat and click on enrichment. Now the problem is we need to go to filters. Every time you build anything in a habitat in this game, what you need to do is make sure that you have selected items that are appropriate for the animal. That's kind of the key. So you can, in the enrichment, you actually get to pick by the species. So we just go down to mandrill. It is 2 L's, by the way. And we say, all right, this is what we can build. And let's see, what kind of food enrichment can we build? We can build... Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Remember when I said that things carry over from different franchises? I actually had mandrills at my other zoo, and I think I researched a little bit of them, and so apparently the research carries over across all franchises, which allows you to build enrichment items. So if you are starting out brand new and you're doing mandrills or any type of animal, You might not be able to build very many enrichment items, if any at all, because you need to research them first, and I will talk about that in 1 second. Let me just place this big block of frozen food and this kind of like fun. I like to place the fun enrichment items by the window so that the guests can like watch the animals be silly and have fun. And then we now need to get some toys, and let's just build some like drums for these dudes, and then a cardboard box seems pretty cool. And then maybe a block of ice like over here, and then that's enough enrichment. And then I'm going to unpause it, and then now the welfare of the animal is 92%. So just by building the shelter, the right terrain, and all of the items that they need for toy and enrichment, food enrichment, then they're happy and they're totally cool. Now, they also need some climbable stuff, but these trees count, so I don't need to build any faux climbable stuff because they can climb them. Now, I do have to kind of keep my eye on this to make sure they can't climb up here and like jump over. So let's watch, make sure that that's not a thing. All right. So at this point, once the animals are happy, all right, they would like a few more adults in their social group, and we need to buy more females. We know that. Once the animals are happy, you can start to do some other things. Let me do this really quickly. Remember when I talked about research? You need to go to your zoo menu, and you need to click on this vet research, and yes, okay, so the level 1 that I researched before carries over. That's really cool that it carries over from franchise to franchise. So that kind of incentivizes you to build in different areas so that you can get access to all the animals and research them and get all the benefits that come with that. Anyway, in order to understand how to build enrichment items, get the right food, get educational materials, and take care of your animals better, you need to research them. So that is what your veterinarian can do. And you just kind of drag your vet over the animal you want to research, and now it's working on researching the mandrill. It's going for level 2 for me. You can click on it and see at level 1 I got toy enrichment and food enrichment. So actually, without level 1, I wouldn't have access to any of the toys or food stuff. And the animal will be slightly less happy while that happens, but really you get level 1 pretty fast. So don't worry about that. Just set a guide to researching it, and then you'll get access to the right materials soon enough. Okay, so now we have the vet researching, but that's not all you can research. You can go to mechanic, and then remember I already researched 2 aspects of this classic theme. I actually want to just continue doing that and just unlock all aspects of the classic theme. So if I want to build cool stuff with the classic theme, then around my zoo, then I can, and I'll have the whole theme unlocked. So now I've got my 2 things being researched. My staff are doing that, and my animals are happy. And I think that this is actually an excellent place for us to stop for the first video. We still have not unpaused it because we have more things to do in terms of building facilities for the guests that will come in. But you can see they're just starting to want to come in. So there's no problems yet. We will take care of them in a second. But we will get into doing that. The last thing I want to mention before I finish is just look at my money. I have 16,000 left after building this initial starting zoo with some cheap staff facilities, a few things for my mandrills. What I like to do is never dip below 10,000 and never expand and include a new animal until I'm around 20 or 25,000. That way you won't fall into debt, and you will have plenty of money to keep things going. You just have to kind of set the balance, figure out what you need, adjust things accordingly, and then you can upgrade. You just have to be patient, watch your levels, and we're going to work on that. And I can't wait to progress all the way through this zoo, see how far we can get, how much we can research, how big we can make this, and I'm excited to do that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something from it. I hope you pick up this game and check it out. It's fantastically relaxing and satisfying. If you did have fun with this, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I'd really appreciate it. I hope you have an excellent evening or day wherever you're at, and I'm going to check you in the next video where we continue with this zoo. All right, everybody. Take care.